Hello everyone, I welcome you to week 3, and this is the following session from my colleague Bajak, where I'm going to be a little bit more broad and looking into the future. I'm going to have a look about luxury and its relation to society, to culture, and related to the customers. So we have to think about that basically the customer behavior is one part of the story. But in the back of the customer, we have the society developments. So this is shifting consumer behavior over time. And what I'm talking with you about today is that this is already relevant, and it will be more relevant, these kind of shifts in the future. So what kind of trends I'm talking about which may influence consumer behavior? This is on one hand cultural trends. On the second is the trends how the society is going to develop. And then at the end, and you know this because this is a medium which is heavily influenced by that, technological trends. So let's start with the technology trends. What can we say about the technology of today? We get more multimedia. There are more channels available. And as you can see here on this wonderful PowerPoint, there is differences beyond the customers which are using certain channels. So not everyone uses media same. We can see here that there are differences between the countries, and there are differences between the channels. And this will change in the next decades as well. We have new technologies coming up. We have channels fading out. So basically, this is a changing landscape. How we consume luxury, how we order, how we buy luxury, how we perceive luxury, and how we get notice about luxury and all the brands and all the products. This is a wonderful study from McKinsey. You will find the link then online basically later. The second part are social trends. Social trends is basically a moving target, is a development. So society is developing over time. And nowadays we can see already that luxury is no more limited to the wealthy, to the top end. It is basically fluent. So what does this mean? This means basically that the concept of luxury is a socio-economical concept, which means that we have this embedded into a changing society. So nowadays we are talking about the transition from the industrial society to a post-industrial society. Post-industrial society means we have a relation on and with information. So it's an information-based society. It is a network-based society, or sometimes you call it knowledge economy. So these parts are changing the society. Think about yourself. So basically, one day you have maybe a lot of money, you are rich. How is this then shifting your idea of luxury? So in an industrial society, we were thinking about materialization, getting a lot of wealth, gaining a lot of wealth. And in a post-industrial society, it's more about the soft values, maybe more self-actualization, self-realization. So this is a big change, and we see this in most societies or most developed societies. These kind of trend shifting from industry to post-industry. So basically, from manufacturing to the service industry, from blue collar to white collar, from the production of goods to the provision of services. In terms of the economy, this means basically that intellectual property and knowledge are more important, and we can see this in our daily life. So everyone is striving for more university degrees, getting more competences, and so on. So there is a lot of things going on in this direction of changing the society. This means as well that how knowledge, for instance, is perceived is very, very different. Education becomes more important, and with education we change our views, we change our values. So all these kind of variables, they will change how we behave as a customer, and they will change how we perceive basically luxury. So the lifestyle changes, we can see it is more about the self, it is more about creativity, and it's about more doing things differently. So we talk in post-industrial societies as well more about the values of well-being, the values of gathering something for ourselves rather than gathering a stock of luxury goods. So we had already two trends. The last set of trends are cultural trends. So basically we have a few streams here. The meta stream is term globalization. So globalization, probably everyone should be familiar with this concept. Globalization is about that basically goods and services and technology is available around the globe. So we see this in our life when we are traveling. We can use smartphones everywhere. We have credit cards which are accepted everywhere. So basically there is lots of global network in terms of goods, trades and services, and maybe languages. In terms of the luxury industry, at the moment we can see that the Western luxury brands are globalizing. So basically they became global. They are the gold standard of luxury everywhere. So we can ask, is this really true? And there might be cultural differences now and in the future how luxury brands are going to evolve, and how luxury brands in a Western setting are basically developing. So usually if we do research, luxury is understood as something rare, something with a high quality, and something expensive. So this is basically a standard among most cultures. But between the cultures, we can see there are lots of differences. In terms of Americans and Europeans and Asians, they understand that luxury goods basically have a higher price, and from there they must be more expensive. And this is related to a superior quality. But if we look deeper into certain cultures, we can see there are differences. So in an Asian context, for instance, luxury means also a lot about prestige. But what does prestige mean, and how is prestige basically developing and communicated? So the interesting part here is the brand need to be understood by other people. So this is why we see in certain Asian markets only mainstream brands consumed by customers, and let's say brands which may be more expensive are less en vogue because no one can understood, or only a smaller circle of people can understood. So in a global context, talking about, for instance, America, in America, luxury is kind of an investment, and in Asia, it's about visualization or demonstration of wealth. So this is very, very different from each other. Do you agree? So I give you now a few examples, because we talk about these, or we stereotype these kind of markets quite a lot. So my first example is Russia. Usually we think about Russia. Russia is a rich country, and the Russians traveling abroad, and the Russians consume goods, and luxury goods must be very, very rich. This is true. But the understanding of luxury, for instance, in Russia is relatively different. The Russians have their own culture. Russia is a very powerful country. Russia basically was never dominated by the West. So this is very, very independent. So in terms of resources, Russia has a long-standing and a rich list of resources, and of course lots of human talents. So this increases the independency in terms of Western luxury brands and other industrial sectors. Moscow is usually cited as one of the cities with the most billionaires. But what do these billionaires basically do? If we have a closer look, we can see that in an early stage, the luxury was materialistic. So it was about goods, it was about consumption. But now it goes into a post-materialistic stage, which means it is a little bit about what I mentioned earlier. It's about the self-actualization. It's about the acquisition of knowledge, and it is about buying or acquiring arts or artifacts. So nowadays, things are changing very much in this market, and it can't be stereotyped like this is just about Western luxury brands. So here, basically, luxury is seen as a function of the brand and the price coming with the brand. And at the end, there is an expectation about prestige, and with this prestige, there comes respect among those people, among those peers who can afford. So this has something about a society circles, and it is kind of communication. And basically, when everyone knows what is about these brands then gives you respect and gives you a certain prestige. So I would like now swapping to another market. That's, for instance, India. India is rather underestimated in a sense of the country. It's rather a sleeping or a very silent giant at the moment. Our eyes are going mostly far east towards China. But if you have a look into India, India is one of the biggest markets. It equals in terms of the society, in terms of the population with China. And from there is technically a lot of consumer potential for any kind of brands. But are Indians really into Western luxury brands? Would Western luxury brands globalize there? That's again a different story over here. In India, for instance, if you have a closer look, and this is coming from our literature, India has the highest number of individual custom-made Rolls-Royce cars. So this shows that people there who can afford, they love luxury. They buy a certain type of Western luxury. But on the other hand, many consumer luxury brands, in a wider sense, are not that well known. And why is that? So one idea is that, for instance, India has a very, very long tradition in individualization and tradition of service. So people love to have individual goods. That's some kind of luxury for them. But they have very, very talented people who can serve and can produce those goods within India. So basically, there is no need for those kind of luxury brands we consider as individual in the West. So there is a lot of a high number of and a large quality of excellent Indian artisans, so manufacturing or artists. There is also a very strong and deep-rooted old culture in India and an heritage. So this again is one factor why basically the acceptance for Western luxury brands is not that strong, like for instance in other markets. And other reasons, for instance, are, it's a very hot topic at the moment, taxes and duties. So basically, there are also taxes and duties applying to imports into India, which then, on the other hand, may shift the market. So where is the luxury going there in the moment? Here it's about everything, mostly hardware, which is, let's say, not necessarily to be acquired in India. So think about the Rolls-Royce car, which was originating from the UK. Nowadays, we can talk about hardware like boats, like jets or private jets and helicopters. So this is a certain kind of luxury which is supplied only by a few global specialists. Finally, coming to the market which is now in everyone's mind, that's China. It's currently one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and it's a very strong tradition from poor to rich. So in China, and you can already sense this in this way, in China is very, very different because here it was a general transition from poor to rich. So this is something which the development path is different, like in the other markets, for instance, Russia or India. In China, it's very important to have a recognition, to have respect through luxury brands. So basically, it means when you're going to buy a luxury brand, you gain recognition, and by gaining this recognition, you gain respect. This is why the brands have to be known very, very well. It doesn't really make sense then buying something very expensive which no one knows. It needs to be something which everyone recognizes. So luxury becomes very important for the individual person and for yourself. So it helps to gain basically your self-esteem, it helps you to gain social status, and at the end it helps you to gain self-confidence. That's a very, very different pattern. In terms of Western brands, and for now and in the future, for instance, there will be not only the Western brands which going now into China. China is very dynamic, so we will see in the next years coming more and more brands from China which then bounce back into Western countries. So they gain a status of a luxury good in China, and then with the right strategy and the right product placement might become also luxury brands for other markets or Western markets. So China is a very good candidate as a let's say luxury producing market that it will bounce back. However, the time is too short to go more broad and also more in depth. So for that one, we have some more videos prepared for you, which are concentrating, which are focusing into the Chinese market. So they zoom on certain aspects. They zoom on the Chinese customer on one hand. They are going to showcase you how about online shopping and luxury is going together in China, which is very important. China is very much depending on social media in terms of gaining an idea about luxury and then for selling over the internet, which we call e-commerce. And then you find at the whole package some more readings and videos about the development of Western brands into China, and then how Chinese brands develop and are at the footstep now to become global brands into the rest of the world. So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'm looking forward to your questions, or if we can serve you with more feedback, just contact us. In the following, you will see as well interviews recorded with the researchers from the Hong Kong Polytech University, from School of Hotel and Tourism Management, which report about their research into the luxury market. Thank you very much, and all the best with your class.